Here's two big stories that the media barely covers. States have authority to fine or jail people who refuse coronavirus vaccine, attorney says. Legal precedent dates back to 1905. Yikes, that can't be true, right? Let's go to the trusted Snopes. Could people be jailed, fined for refusing COVID-19 vaccine in the US? Even without a COVID-19 vaccine yet available, readers ask whether individuals who refused one could face criminal penalties. Rating true. Individual US states would be legally authorized to impose criminal penalties on individuals who refuse to undergo a mandatory COVID-19 vaccination. I've also shown before how Alan Dershowitz said this weeks ago.
Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you?
If you want to learn more, you should watch his debate with RFK Jr. on vaccines. It's a brilliant debate on YouTube, and it's very revealing, I'll just say that. This seems crazy, right? I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not anti-pill. There's some good pills on the market. However, I have two eyes and a brain, so when I watch television, I see that every commercial break has a, did you take this pill 10 years ago? Did you take the pill we told you to take, the one that we said was safe? If you did, you could sue. You may be eligible for money if you got this disease or this disorder. So it doesn't make me anti-pill to think that pills should be optional and the government shouldn't force it down my throat, especially with their track record, and I feel the same way about vaccines, but the media uses the term anti-vax to smear any single person who wants the freedom to not get one. Once again, I have two eyes, and I read recently in AP that there are actually more cases of polio from the oral vaccine than occurring in nature. That's confirmed by the World Health Organization and Associated Press. It's not even really controversial to say. I've listened to the experts like Dr. Fauci admit that they need to be safe.
Now, the issue of safety, something that I want to make sure the American public understand. It's not only safety when you inject somebody and they get maybe an idiosyncratic reaction, they get a little allergic reaction, they get pain. There's safety associated. Does the vaccine make you worse? And there are diseases in which you vaccinate someone, they get infected with what you're trying to protect them with, and you actually enhance the infection. You can get a good feel for that in animal models. So that's going to be interspersed at the same time that we're testing. We're going to try and make sure we don't have enhancement. So the worst possible thing you could do is vaccinate somebody to prevent infection and actually make them worse.
So as an American citizen, I have the right to be semi-concerned that Operation Warp Speed, which reminds me of like when you're a kid, they have the spoon, they're like, here comes the airplane, Operation Warp Speed, Jokes aside, yeah, I'm not too thrilled that they're rushing it through safety trials, especially being someone that takes care of myself, has a strong immune system, doesn't get sick, rarely ever. I don't want to be forced to get this extremely rushed vaccine into my arm. But once again, it's not a conspiracy theory that they could force it onto you. It's in mainstream news. I've covered it before, but I will really quick. The legal precedent in 1905 that they're talking about is this.
You have no right not to be vaccinated.
And when Alan Dershowitz says that, just know he's not alone. This was a big court case in 1905. It's called the Jacobson versus Massachusetts, a United States Supreme Court case in which the court upheld the authority of states to enforce compulsory vaccination laws. The court's decision articulated the view that the freedom of the individual must sometimes be subordinated to the common welfare and is subject to the police power of the state. And I found out by looking at it that it was even referenced during the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. Let me know what you think about it in the comments section. The second story that's barely being told, especially on television media, is the story of 5-year-old Cannon Hinnant, who was murdered execution style at point blank range while riding his bike allegedly in front of his sisters. It's a horrible, horrible story. And since the media has a major racial bias, you can see in the top stories you can't find a single picture of who killed him. That's because the person looked like this. And whether you want to admit it or not, the media really doesn't care about kids, whether it's white kids being murdered execution style or black kids being murdered in major liberal cities every weekend. The media doesn't care. In fact, they ostracized and mocked Terry Crews for suggesting that black kids being murdered should be a part of Black Lives Matter.
When you look in the city of Chicago, there are 9 children who died by gun violence, by black on black gun violence, from June 20th all the way to today. And you're talking about even with the Atlanta child murders, there were 28 kids who died in 2 years. You're talking about a month, and you have 9 black kids, and The Black Lives Matter movement has said nothing about this.
What does
kind
that
of
have
thing.
to do with equality, though, Terry? I don't understand what that has to do with equality, because if you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, Black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's not what Black Lives Matter is about. Kids from being shot. It just seems like apples and oranges.
So next time they yell at you for saying all lives matter, understand why. All lives literally don't matter to them. Little kid lives don't matter, and all Black lives don't even matter. What they care about is when a white cop interacts with a Black person, and they could twist it to start chaos, anger, and riots. They're liars, they're wicked, horrible people who don't care about anybody's life. All they care about is mind control and power. Back to this story, Matt Walsh said, say his name. 5-year-old Cannon Hinnant was executed in cold blood while riding his bike. The accused killer is Darius Sessoms. He allegedly walked up to the boy and shot him dead in front of his sisters, reversed the races, and this is the only thing anyone talks about for a month. Regardless of what you think about Trump, Matt, any sort of racial activism, it's true. If it was a white man and a Black kid, this would be the story for the rest of the year. There would be riots, there would be chaos, there would be looting. In fact, this is almost always the case. There have been multiple stories of people beating up elderly people, but it doesn't make the news because the media doesn't care about over half this country. In the story, it says Hinnant lived next door to Sessoms and his parents for 8 years and even had him over for dinner on Sunday. The Lord says to love our neighbor. I have plenty of food to go around. I just wanted to be nice, Hinnant said, noting that he and Sessoms sat on his porch and drank beer. And I'll be honest, unlike mass media, I don't know his motive. You can see the news saying motive a mystery in 5-year-old's murder, which is true, but you don't see the reverse. In the George Floyd event, God bless his soul, they immediately said racism, 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 racism. We know the motive. We know the motive. They lied about it. People rioted, looted, assumed that it just happened completely unprovoked. And the body cam footage came out last week. I'm not justifying what happened with the knee on the neck, and I think he should go to trial. But what I am saying is if you watch the body cam footage, it provides completely new context. And maybe the facts and truth and reality hurt your feelings, but I can't sit here and be a liar just so you feel good about it. In the body cam footage, he was completely cracked out on drugs, wouldn't listen, multiple minutes resisting arrest, wouldn't sit in the car, asked to lay down on the ground. Whether you want to admit it or not, if he wasn't extremely messed up on drugs, he'd still be alive today. I'm not justifying what the cop did at all. I'm just saying that's real, and self-accountability is something that the media doesn't want you to have. If you have self-accountability, they can't control you, make you buy things, make you vote for their puppet politicians, so they thrive on your lack of self-accountability and self-awareness, and that goes for everybody. But it's a lot different than being a 5-year-old boy and getting executed at that age. Now, me personally, I think everybody's life matters, whether it be the dozens of Black children that are being shot that never get media coverage, whether it be young Cannon, whether it be the Black Trump supporter Burnell Trammell who was murdered, or Jessica Doty Whitaker who was murdered for saying all lives matter. Then a bunch of Black Lives Matter activists flooded her social media to mock her after she was murdered. So once again, when they want to stop you from saying all lives matter, understand it's because they literally don't care if you get murdered. They think you can get unjustly murdered, mock you, and they have the right to burn, loot, riot, and commit domestic terrorism every time somebody resists arrest, and the media covers the story falsely. This is what's happening. Most people probably didn't even hear about it. They have a massive, massive political bias and a massive, massive racial bias, and they only care about your race if you have their politics, so they don't really care about your race. If you're a kid, they don't care. They care about their narrative. And if you really look into who's funding this racial chaos and division between us, you'll find that one of the main donors is somebody who's manipulated multiple currencies in multiple countries, almost completely collapsed the banks, and before the pandemic hit, suggested that the economy was going to be destroyed in America. The media will of course call that an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, but what I just said is factual and backed up by multiple mainstream articles. I understand both these stories might be extremely uncomfortable. One, having to wrestle with the fact that you might soon be being forced to get a vaccine, and if you try to opt out, you may be arrested, jailed, or fined, and they do have the legal precedence to do that. I know that that's tough to admit. I know that it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. It's real life. Wake up. It's 2020. Have you not noticed something a little strange is going on? I think it's time to unplug your brain from the media and start using common sense, critical thinking, and the brain that God gave you. And the second story, of course, it's a sad story, and I really don't like talking about sad stories, but the double standards are just obvious. And the real reason I'm talking about it is if people don't realize how the media operates, you're never going to stop getting tricked. You're never going to stop getting played, and you're always going to be used like a pawn. There's hundreds of millions of things going on in the world every year. The media could put a microscope on one thing, lie about it, take it out of context, use it to manipulate you and destroy your own city, destroy your own community, chase businesses out of your city, which is going to lead to poverty, more crime, and all the oppression that you claim to be fighting. They have an unlimited way to do this. You could have 50,000 people die, and they could just wait for the one that fits their racial narrative, and sometimes it's not even really what they say. They make it up and lie about it, and then tell you the truth 4 months later after they milked it for all it was worth, including massive amounts of fundraising to their politics, which you don't even know is probably happening. So until people wake up to this, little black kids are going to be murdered, little white kids are going to be murdered, and all sorts of evil is going to thrive in our country because they're using race and emotions to take away people's heart and soul. They try to invert reality using phony politics and media manipulation and celebrity manipulation to tell people that good is evil, evil is good, wrong is right, right is wrong, chaos is order, order is bad, burning, looting, domestic terrorism is okay, being a law-abiding citizen is a terrorist. They're purposely scrambling your mind, and I could just sit here and lie to you like every celebrity, like every fake news host, like most of the athletes, and maybe it would make you feel better if I lied to you, but I personally know the hard truth, and the real raw truth is what is going to set our country free, save lives, make America a better place, because at this current rate, the division, the fake activism, and the media agenda is going to lead our entire country straight to hell. And a lot of people are waking up to that. God bless you. I appreciate you for watching my video. If you'd like to support, I have a Patreon, I have a donor box, I have a PayPal. But seriously, no worries. I appreciate people who do that, but I also appreciate everybody who doesn't. Don't feel obligated. It's totally optional. I'm just putting it out there extra this month because Facebook shut down my live streaming for 30 days. During an election season, after I was one of the top 10 pages in all of the United States on Facebook. No worries though, I'll be back with more videos and have a beautiful day.